Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Grow Your Path to Wellness. Last week, Amanda and we sat down with Griffin Brown, and we talked all things of, the ingredients and barriers to making a lasting and successful change in our lives, which it's always a very, important topic and can be a big struggle. So you don't want to miss it. If you want to go back and check last week out. This week is Amanda's turn to be on the other side of the dialogue and to be a guest this week. So, of course, welcome. But as a refresher for the community, any new listeners, if you don't mind, maybe do another intro about, background, education, and your different roles right now.
Hey.
Yeah.
I'm usually here every week unless I'm self-caring, or I just love that we can alternate and be willing to focus on our self-care. So yes, I am Amanda Kostura. I have a background in psychology. I minored in child and family development, which was really helpful, informative for my career. And then my master's is in social work from 2013. Oh, it's getting further and further away. Since then, and during that time, I have experience in homelessness, housing programs, domestic violence, substance use, mental health. I mean, I've run the gamut on things. And really, just in the past 2 years, I've started a nonprofit mental health organization, Carve Your Own Path. We do clinical counseling. I provide supervision for licensed social workers working toward their independent license, which is a big passion of mine. I love mentoring, training. I was laughing thinking about this last night. I don't know why this came to my mind, but for 5 years through college, I worked at Steak and Shake. And I was pretty quickly promoted to service trainer. And I was just thinking back to I don't even know if I was that great of a server to get promoted to that, but I was really great at training people and making sure they knew what to do. So that's always been a part of my blood, is just helping empower other people, whether it's my clients or supervisees, and then also just doing community education. So obviously the podcast, but working with other organizations as well to provide tools to them, if they're not mental health focused, how they can provide that to their organizations, and more mindfulness tools. And I think that's it. I mean, there's so much more of my identity, but professionally, that's kind of where I'm at.
I love it. And it's like an evolution, right? And it's so weird you say you were thinking about what did you do through college? Because I was talking to somebody, don't ask me who it was right now, but anyways, that we were talking and I was like, listen, I worked at Arby's for 3 years and then I was I was a server at a restaurant for the other years after that. I was and it's an evolution. When you look back, it's like, holy cow,
Right? At the time I was like, yeah, this is great. Tips are great. I need this to get through college. And looking back, it's like, this was so formative, right? And I mean, pretty soon here, I'll probably have that fall off my resume, but that's still one of my first jobs on my resume, because training was so important to me, and cross training people in different skills, right? So it wasn't just okay, you serve, but I also knew the production line and how to cook and how to do drive-through, and
those foundational skills that we take with us from those, we're not knocking those jobs.
Right.
They were a real part of we'll get into your topic in a second, but our path of things, and, really taught us those foundational skills, I think.
Something I'm learning, and I think a lot of people get, I'm not oldish, I'm 31, I'll be 32 this year, and it's interesting as you mature and grow, all those little cliche sayings that people have told you your whole life that you've always just been annoyed with because you weren't there yet, right? Everything happens for a reason, or everything will come in due time, or you don't know why this is happening now, but you'll look back later and know. I just kind of brushed all that off and was frustrated, right? I just got to do this, I got to do that, and then I got to get to this. Yeah, and now I can truly look back and say, literally everything happened for that reason, and I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for that path. So yes.
Okay, so with all of that being said, tell us, I was curious and I added part to this question was, tell us, share with us a little bit why or how you chose the topic this week, that topic of finding your path in life. I love that.
it's also why, like, I mean, it's a part of our podcast, it's a part of my business name. Like, I think so many people get stuck in societal expectations, parental expectations, religious expectations, whatever our formative years.
Mm.
And we don't ever think outside of that to really go into ourself and say, what do I want? There were so many times in life where I found myself just trying to like keep up with the Joneses, I guess, right? Like, full disclosure, I called off a wedding 3 weeks before because it wasn't until then that I realized, oh my gosh, what am I doing?
Yeah.
This isn't my person. This isn't what I want. I'm doing it for all the wrong reasons. And, I got, I, I won't say I got slack for it, but I gave myself a bunch of crap for it before I made the decision. Like, I was worried. Oh my God, I already have the invitations out. People already bought me gifts. People, I already paid for this. And what are other people going to think? They're going to judge me, yada, yada.
Every
And then
bit.
when I made the decision, I had so much support and love, right? And so much. So I know I could ramble on forever, but it's so important for people to realize often we're on autopilot and
Mm.
we don't even realize what we're doing or why we're doing it. And when you step back and say, wait a minute, what do I value? Is that my voice or is that my mom's voice? Like, am I just seeing all my friends getting married and having babies and that's why I think I should be doing it? What do I really want in life? And I don't think, especially, we've talked about this several times and I talk to my clients all the time. 2021 America doesn't build you to be mindful and step back and breathe. They say go, go, go.
Yes.
And just keep up. So that's always my goal, is to show people you're the only one that lives in this body. You go home with yourself every day. And if you're doing it for other people, you're going to be miserable.
Yes. And I feel like it can come out in many, and that we'll get more into this in a little bit, I'm sure, but because I know you, but it can come out in so many different ways, like the consequences for that of, why ignoring the why am I doing this? And
Mm-hmm.
is this, for me, or is this other outside things that I'm just on autopilot doing? And then we're, like you said, we're the ones that have to deal with how that manifests for us.
Yeah, so many consequences. And we just kind of, I think, accept them
Yes.
as part of the process of life.
Yes.
Well, I guess I have to.
All the time. Like I just thought that's what a marriage looked like. Like, or that's what I thought friendships looked like or felt like. And I'm like, oh,
It doesn't have to.
no.
Yeah. Oh, I have to work 60 hours a week, even though I get paid for 40 and I never get to like spend the money I'm making at work or enjoy my family or, that that's not, that doesn't have to be.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. All right. So what did your own journey, that finding your own path in life, do you mind sharing a little bit of what that looked like and how maybe our community can implement a little bit of, those aspects into their own life?
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be an episode where, if my clients or future clients ever tune in, they might get to know me a little better, and that's okay because I think it's important to realize that we're all humans. So I think it's really, I mentioned I called off a wedding 3 weeks before, and that was like probably the pivotal moment where I was like, what is happening? Like, what? I'm like 25. I don't need to be doing these things. Like, I have plenty of time. And yes, I was terrified because that was all I knew at that point. But that was the moment where I decided to put myself first, despite everyone else's opinions, despite hurting other people's feelings, right? Like, the person I was with had feelings and emotions, and yet I had to hurt those to end the relationship. So, and then, moving forward, I I think support too. Like, I couldn't have done all the things I've done so far if I didn't have the people I have in my life.
Mhm.
And so, I met my now husband, and we were like 3 months into our relationship, and my depression was at its worst. And, I have chronic um, pain, and that was at its worst. I was using my PTO constantly. I had FMLA that I was maxing out. I did not want to go to work. I did not want to get off the couch. I didn't want to see anyone. I I was having suicidal ideations. My medication wasn't doing it. I just didn't care. I was eating like crap. I wasn't moving at all. I was just, even my closest relationships, like my mom is one of my people, and I was just like distant from her and pulling away. And I said, one day I came home and I said, I need to quit. And he said, okay, quit.
Mhm.
And I was like,
You're like, what? Just like what?
what? I'm a strong, independent woman. I was raised by a single mom. Like I don't just not have the capability to take care of myself. And we're not even married. We've been together, maybe 5 months now. And
All of
you're
them.
just saying, right? All my limiting beliefs that we talk about, get in the way. And something about that, I had really started to listen to my gut and just trust, and I just knew. I knew he was genuine. I knew he was going to be there. I knew that his offering of his support was there. And then, I reached out to my family and my close friends again, and they were like, that's a great idea. Yes, you need to leave. And so I left a job without having another job for the first time in my life, which was terrifying and
Mhm.
so liberating at the
Yeah.
same time. People would ask me, like, when I was leaving, where are you going? I don't know. Nowhere. Not sure yet. Not here. I'm gone.
Yeah. I'm not even, that it was like, not only did you put yourself first, but it sounds like too, like you were only being present in that present moment. You were like, this is what I feel right now. I'm not even out here. I'm not out here where I think I want to be or where I think I need to be. This is where I'm at right now. And I do not feel good right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's probably the first time I was able to do that, right? Like other than, I called off my wedding, but it was really like the progression of me just like, I have to do this for me and I can't worry about what other people are thinking. This is toxic and
Mm.
I'll find another job. I'll figure it out. I know how to figure it out. I'll go work a Steak and Shake again if I have to, right? But like, so I did that and I left a job without having another job. I got another job probably like 2 weeks after I officially left my other job, which was phenomenal. Like that job, I truly felt, even just from the interview, it was really weird for me. Like they called me before I had even started and were like asking me, hey, we have some options for what location. We know that you live here. Would you prefer to be closer to home or would you? And I'm just like staring. I just like
You're like,
pulled the
wait,
phone
you're
away
not
and I'm just
telling
like,
me where I need to be and like
right?
like
And it
you
was a
know what I want and what I think.
right. And I haven't even started. You're not even paying me yet. Like, is this real life? And even when I was interviewing, like before all of that, it was a 40-hour-a-week position. And I knew at that point I had just started taking on supervisees. I hadn't started Carve Your Own Path yet, but I knew that was what I wanted to do. And I said, I really would prefer 24 hours if possible. I understand it's a full-time position. I would prefer 24 if possible. They didn't say no, it's 40 hours or nothing. They said, can you do 32? And I said, okay.
Mm.
Right. And so that was the first time where I was like, wait a minute, things are going my way. Maybe there's something here. And from there, it was like off and running. Like, my husband was there and supportive the whole time. And I started my business and I slowly started cutting down my hours. I'm actually officially leaving that job here in the next few weeks, which I still love them and it's still really hard to leave. But I honestly hung on longer than I should have because of those limiting beliefs of if I leave, maybe I won't get referrals from them like I do now, or, they really like me there. And what are those clients going to do if I leave? Right. Like all those silly things.
All
I
those
still
things
went through it.
be there, even if you aren't there. Like they still like you. That stuff doesn't just they'd still send you referrals, but when we're in that,
Hmm.
like all of that's gonna be gone if you know,
Hmm.
leave.
And I think it's interesting too. I think me and you have talked about this and I've talked about it with a couple other people. That was the first time. Well, this is the first time I'm officially leaving a job, not because it's toxic, and
Mm-hmm.
I hope for something healthy and better. So it's like almost my limiting beliefs are like, wait a minute, this is healthy for you. It
Right.
doesn't stress you out. It's very minimal. I'm only 12 hours a week there now. It's very
Right.
minimal hours. Like, why are you quitting?
Yeah.
So I had to go through that own debate, but it's like, but my true passion, my true goals, right? Like that's,
Growth.
I like it. You're great. You were a part of my path and I need to move on now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even remember what the actual question was to begin with. Did I answer it?
Journey and what it looked like. 100%.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that brings us up to date. I think, yeah. And
And
even
profit and carve your own path, was that something that, I don't know if I've ever asked you this question, I do work with you. Was that something just, from the beginning in your career, like you really knew you wanted to start a nonprofit?
I always knew, I guess I can't say always. I think it was like a little seed and it just grew bigger and bigger as I saw how dysfunctional agencies were
Mm-hmm.
and how toxic and how there's just a lack of caring for your employees. Actually, my husband and I were on vacation last week and we were talking about these nerdy things like how employers don't focus on their employees and their mental well-being and their physical well-being, and they don't trust them until like it's like you have to prove yourself, right? And it's like, I get it, you have to have policies and procedures, and if I'm not allowed to take a day off work to take care of my mental health, who am I showing up for? Like, who
Right.
am I showing up as for the people that we serve? And if you're really caring about the people you serve, it starts with the people you employ.
Yes.
And I don't know, I could go on and on about that, but there's just so much dysfunction. And I know there's a lot of red tape and there's a lot of reasons, but it really grew for me. Like, I want to have my own organization. I want to do things for the community, and I want it to be a healthy workplace. Like, I want my people to know that I care about them. And I think we talked about this with Jean on a couple episodes, right? Like, even when I was in management, we talked about how if your person needs time off or they tell you they lost a loved one or they're having a medical procedure, it was like, okay, you need time off. Do you want me to get someone to cover for you? That's all I was allowed to say.
Yes. Why are you telling me this? Okay, what do you need from me? And it's like,
right. Like, we're human beings, and especially in the profession we work in social work and mental health and social services. I keep seeing these articles about, I know I'm squirreling off, but I keep seeing these articles about burnout and in our profession. And really, I think that puts it on us, and it annoys me because it's not our fault. It's the lack of support.
yes.
Right? If your agencies had better support to offer you, maybe we wouldn't feel so burnout. If they were more equipped, I kind of compare it to, people kind of say our US healthcare system wasn't prepared for COVID. Our mental health care system isn't prepared on the daily, often, right? To meet the needs of our staff, to meet the needs of the clients.
Systematic dysfunction, not a dysfunction with us, like
Right.
as clinicians.
And I think a lot of times we internalize that as like, I'm not doing enough.
I feel like we're expected, like that sounds awful. Like it's maybe like an unspoken thing, but I feel like we're kind of programmed to internalize it. So that way we just push through. It'll pass, do some self-care. That way, and it's like, it's not just gonna pass. Like it's something that needs active change.
And they don't realize how, unrealistic it is to say, just do some self-care. Because where I was however many years ago, depressed, suicidal, in pain all day, every day, not getting out of bed because of all these things at work, I don't have the energy or the mental space to self-care because it's all been taken away from me because I don't have that support in my job.
And you'll get like presented like a PowerPoint or get reminded of how many PTO hours you have, to take, but then there's all these other expectations, that feeling of, even when you're doing your self-care day, you always have that feeling of like all of the stuff that's piling up or what you have to make up for when you go back.
Absolutely. And productivity. Oh my gosh, if I take this day off, how am I going to meet my productivity? Because they still expect that. Or, how many emails am I going to come back to? Or, I see it with my husband now because he has moved into management, and I tried to like prepare him for the drastic difference from being just an employee and going into management, that it takes a lot of separation, right? Like, even on vacation, just trying to remember, like, okay, there's going to be a lot of emails. That's okay. There's going to be a lot of stuff to come back to. That's okay. I have to be mindful in the moment.
Yes. Do you have any like good tips for listeners or things that you in our own, because we're big on like always sharing, both of us, like different things that we do for ourselves to help re-regulate. What are those things for you? Just on the
my breath is my core.
Mm-hmm.
And I often sometimes need reminded of how grounding my breath is.
Mm-hmm.
The other day I was like freaking out a little bit, and my husband and my mom and my friend Amy were all just like, okay, I need you to take a breath.
Yeah, you're like, what?
Right. And I was even just like watching Grey's Anatomy the other day, and they were all like panicking, trying to figure out what to do in the surgical OR. And they were like, hold on, everybody stop. I need everyone to take a deep breath. We are no good to this patient if we are all scrambled, right? And if you think about it, I get it. Sometimes breathing is overwhelming. Breath work can be something you need to tailor with a therapist because, different people go different ways with it. But for me, it's the breath brings me to the moment. The breath calms me to be able to think a little bit more clearly about the next action step. So I'll breathe and then I'll say, what does my body need right now? Sometimes I go to tapping. So sometimes I'll just be laying in bed and I'll start tapping, or I'll be in the car and I'll start tapping, or I do affirmations while I'm breathing, or I just breathe and I count while I breathe. That is probably my number one grounding tool to regulate. And then, right? It's like, that's my grounding point. And then I can decide what to do rather than, oh my God, I should be going for walks. Oh, I should be eating healthier. Oh, I should have, no, go to my breath. And then what do I need to do next?
Yes. Helps you get that clear. I was watching a similar thing, like not great on Netflix, but it was like about, kind of follows the lives, long thing short, of different physicians, like brain surgeons and stuff. And they would do, and always are you doing something with breath. Like they would bring the whole team together before going into a big procedure and do a full like mindfulness exercise with breath and like body awareness. And it was so awesome. And I feel like it's very, I don't want to call it like sensationalized, but it's almost like a buzzword. Or if you mention like deep breathing, everybody's like, oh yes, of course, you're a therapist, you would say that. But we say it for a reason.
Right.
Like
yes, we do say it for a reason. And it's, again, we've mentioned this before in other episodes. It's being willing to say, okay, I hear you say to breathe in the past because I get panic attacks. When I try to breathe, that makes me more panicky. Is there a different way? And yes, there are. Mm-hmm. There's so many different ways you can do breath work, right? And there's so many different ways you can do mindfulness that don't have to trigger worsening symptoms. So for me, it's my breath. For other people, it might be like the five senses, right? Where you look around and you describe things and, go through your senses. For other people, if you're having severe anxiety, it might be going to grab some ice, or it's, there's snow outside my house. It might be just stepping outside. I remember when I don't think I've talked about Steak and Shake this much since I left there, but I was even mentioning this other day. Like sometimes I would just go, I was so like overwhelmed and running around and hot, and I would go into the freezer and just stand in the big walk-in freezer. And I didn't know at the time because I was still like in my undergrad. I didn't know that was a tool, but my body knew.
Yes, you're like, I could tell that it changed something in my body when I did it. We don't know the terminology, the lingo. You knew that it helped.
Yeah, I knew it would like cool me down. Probably was like my number one. Like I'm sweating, I need to cool down.
I'm hot.
But it did so much more for me if I look back. Yeah, if I look back, it was like when I came out of that freezer, I was focused. I was like, all right, I can do things now.
Yeah. Very good. Yes. No, I appreciate that because, like I said, us in our field, like everybody thinks that because we're therapists, that like we don't kind of use any of the stuff that we talk about. And I feel like that's how we've kind of developed our own practices, is because we use these things that help us, and then we find our appropriate, clients for us to really help them to the best that we can because we've done these things ourselves.
Or they think that we don't have struggles.
Yes. Yeah.
And we don't need to use those, right? Yeah.
Yes. So we know that, a part of our journey, that any kind of journey that includes healing, growing, learning mistakes are inevitable, right? And how did you navigate that part of your journey, or any tips for our listeners when it comes to how do I navigate making a mistake?
I don't know where I heard it, but I've stolen it and I've used it ever since. It's a mistake.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because, and I this has been one of my favorite quotes since I don't know where I heard it either, maybe in undergrad, but you don't know if you don't try.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we are so much in our own little worlds and perspectives, and we have tunnel vision and we're on autopilot. But if you never try anything outside of that, you don't know. It could be awful. It could be the
Right.
worst thing you ever did. And now you know,
Mm-hmm.
right? You gave yourself permission to say, ugh, I tried that and it wasn't right for me. And that's okay, because now you know. And so now you have a more clearer understanding to say, that definitely wasn't it. But what did it teach me? What did I learn from it? Or what about that wasn't it? Right. And you know what? I just realized the moment where I decided I wanted to start my own organization was when I had a supervisor that was so quote unquote burnt out and had no self-care and was very I'm trying to think of appropriate words, but just so unempathetic and had just lost the passion. Like, we're not making bank. We don't go into social work to make money. And it's like I saw the drive and I was like, I don't want to be there. And I don't want other people to have to experience that. And so I think honestly, it's just learning, being willing to try new things. Like, how would you know that you don't like a certain type of food if you never tried it?
Mm-hmm.
And also on the other end of that, what's the worst that's going to happen when you do try it? Like, oh, you might spit it out.
What's my problem?
Right? Yeah. Like, if you try a job and you don't like it, you can find a new job.
Right. You don't, it's not an all or nothing. Either I'm all in forever, or I'm not going to change anything and I'm going to stay right here.
Mm-hmm. There's definitely been things that I've started and they didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. Like, back, excuse me, I was still in my grad program, I think. And, oh, it might have been in between. I lost my uncle to an overdose when I was in my undergrad. And couldn't really find, like, I tried to go to the counseling center on campus, and that was just, they serve a purpose, but it wasn't good for that. I needed a little more. And I just couldn't find the support I needed. And I saw that there was other, not agencies, counties that offered support groups for people that had lost loved ones to overdose or addiction. And there wasn't one in my county. So I started one and I really tried to get it going. And I had some like close friends that were like supportive of it and they would show up, and I probably stuck with it for a good 6-8 months, maybe a year. And it just wasn't getting the traction. I loved the
Mm-hmm.
idea. I loved having, his legacy live on. And I didn't get the traction. I was just thinking about that the other day. But I don't beat myself up for that. I'm not like, oh my God, I had to make it work and it didn't work. And all these people thought that I was going to do it. And I talked to all these places and I posted it on social. And,
Mm-hmm.
after a couple, probably like the next year for the first couple months, people would still kind of reach out and ask, hey, is this still a thing or whatever? And I had to get over the shame and guilt. No, sorry, we're no longer in existence. That's
Mm-hmm.
okay. And I just
Right.
let it go because other things took priority.
Not internalizing it, that, and then that feeling of not, it goes back in kind of the intro with this episode, but it's like that us, we're programmed, like I can't let anybody down. I'm letting all these people down if that doesn't work out. It's my fault or this or that. And it's like, and for whatever reason it didn't work out. But when she calls you, you can say, no, it's not, but give her other nearby resources, that can be just as helpful than holding ourselves in something that's not, what we are really wanting it to be for us.
Absolutely. And I wouldn't be where I am today if I held on to that.
Mm-hmm.
I know for a fact, because I would still be trying to get that going. And so who knows if Carve Your Own Path would even be a thing right now.
Right.
you know, and even just, I've talked to you about this. Like, I started a workbook and I got really excited about that and I was super passionate about it and I was telling everyone about it. And then it just kind of fell to the wayside because other things took priority that I was more passionate about. Right. And so I give myself grace. And again, going back to the support group, I know the people in my life will support me no matter what. They're not going to question. They might say, like, oh, hey, what happened to that? I thought you were going to do that. But they're not going to say, I can't believe you didn't follow through on that. So it's always about having the right people to have your back to, whatever you're going to do in your life, they got your back and they're willing to support you.
Mm-hmm. It's like every now and then our limiting beliefs or those distorted thoughts can pop in, and it's like you have to kind of remind ourselves, or when those people kind of pop in when we need them the most, it's like, okay, like I know I do have these people in my corner, but so we can get so caught up in what we think our path should or needs to look like, and then if there's something that changes, then we have to throw it all out the window. It's a path for a reason,
Right.
it's not, this set in stone thing.
Yeah, I don't know where we get this idea that there's this predetermined direction in life, and if we don't follow it, right? I mean, I know, but I know it comes from a lot of places. And I don't think we touched on this, but that's what, the majority of people I see in therapy, their anxiety and their depression and their symptoms, it's just because they're not doing what they want to do.
Yes.
They're following other people's expectations. They're trying to keep up with the Joneses. They're just trying to keep up with society. And unfortunately, it's not realistic. So I think a big part of it too, if I could leave people with something, is just don't be afraid to be different. Don't be afraid to step outside the mold. Like, I am totally okay having people look at me and point at me and saying, look at that weirdo hippie girl with her crystals and her essential oils, and she thinks she can work from home, and she thinks she doesn't have to have a real job, and she's doing everything holistic. She, whatever. Those people aren't my people.
Right.
But there are my people out there. And so it's like I think it's so powerful when you do. It's powerful. It's so beautiful when you step into your power and who you truly are, because the people that aren't meant to be there, the people that are probably holding you back, they'll fall to the wayside.
Yes.
And the people that are meant for you will show up.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll find, and it'll just, I don't know. It's been such a beautiful journey I'm getting shivers because I have this beautiful community of women. There's 7 of us. We met through a direct sale or MLM, and we've literally, since my friend announced her pregnancy a year ago on Marco Polo, we've kept communicating all day, every day on Marco Polo, on Facebook Messenger, on text messages, individually and as a group. And never in my life before this would I ever think that I would love women so much and feel so much support from women. And it's because I let all the other crap go. And these are my true people, right? And so it's beautiful when you can learn it's okay to let those people go. It's going to be a grieving process, and just know that's what was meant to be. One of those stupid cliche things again.
Yes, and I was just talking to a friend of mine, I don't know, probably yesterday, the day before that, and I was, just with a whole bunch of things that are not just happening in the world, but I've been, going through my own journey, just like so many of us, are right now. And I was like, I used to be, because I live in a very rural Appalachian area, and I used to just stay very quiet about things that, I believed in, or things that I, wanted to do for myself, because it's not common out here. But I let those things keep me from, exploring things for myself. Like, that's on me. But now I'm acknowledging that, like, oh, that's not my problem if somebody else doesn't like it. Like, and that is such a good feeling. Like, you figure out what
so
you
empowering.
want, and everything else kind of lines up with that.
I always tell people, if you just focus on yourself and what you need, everything else will fall into place.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that feels so out of control,
Yes.
for people that like control. And I promise you, if you just focus on what you and your body need and what's right for you, and there's a lot of tools for that, right? Mindfulness and doing a lot of introspective things like journaling or going to therapy, looking at your values. We've talked about that before. Because like I said, you have to go home with you every day. Those people are still going to be those people.
Yeah.
And they're going to find connection with people that make sense for them. I'm not your person, and that's okay. Whether that's I'm not your person as a therapist, I'm not your person as a friend, I'm not your person as a family member. That's okay. I need to be happy. I got one life.
What they do with that is for them to navigate, not for me.
Yeah.
I
could talk forever about this kind of stuff. Sometimes I won't actually do this, but sometimes I just want to like shake people and just be like, stop it. It doesn't matter.
Yes.
None of it matters. None of it matters. Literally none of it matters.
If
When we have like
doing that because of that, it doesn't matter.
and like younger, like kids that are, I see some teens and like so high school is like
Oh my goodness.
such a bubble. And then even college too, right?
Yeah.
And I try to just explain to people, and I get it because now I'm just like the older person and I don't get it, right? I'm not cool, but one day I promise you none of this will matter.
Yeah.
It won't. The people that are meant to still be with you will be with you. I don't know how many friends I could tell you I still have from like high school and college, but the ones that stuck are the ones that matter.
Yes.
It's very few and far between. I have 0 friends from high school still. None of them.
I have one.
Other than like social media, right? But like people that I actually connect with and talk with regularly, Ugh, this could have been like a series.
I'm down for that.
Anything else you need to know?
I heard you say a little bit ago how we always have each guest say, is there anything you want to leave our listeners with? Just a little tidbit or a quote, something that you feel like you live by? Anything else that we hadn't touched on?
Yeah. Listen to your gut. Listen to your body. It's my go-to. It feels really scary when you've been through difficult life circumstances, anything traumatic, or, you've been in a toxic work environment or toxic family. It can be really hard to tune into that and not trust your gut. But our entire presence on this earth as human beings is to take in information, process it through our system, and then output information. So take the information in, breathe, be mindful, see how that feels with what you like, and then make a decision, because otherwise you're on autopilot. So that takes a lot of work. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight. That can be a goal you work on in therapy with someone. And then the other part of that is we get back to our roots with our gut and our intuition through creativity and imagination and play. So I always tell people when they're trying to connect with that, go play, go do what you love. Whether you love painting and you haven't done it, you love hiking and you haven't done it. You like, people have so many hobbies now. I couldn't even tell you. I learn something new every time I meet a new client. Do what truly makes you happy and brings you joy, even if you feel like you don't have time, even if you feel like I have to go to work tomorrow. Give yourself 5 minutes to color in a coloring book.
Yes.
I think people look at that as overwhelming, or it's not important, it's not a priority. I got bills to pay, I got to go to work, I got to take care of the kids. Man, self-care is first. Because
telling us, those things right now have that power.
Yeah. Because like, I said earlier, if you're not taking care of yourself, who are you showing up as? As a mom, as a worker, as a member in society? Look at all the, I'm going to go there. Look at all the events that have happened, at the Capitol. I just wonder how many people, if they were able to regulate and be mindful and communicate and do what they love,
Yeah.
what our world would really look like. So just know you're in charge of you. Society is always going to be society. People aren't going to like you, and that's okay. I like when people tell me they don't like me. Okay, bye. I don't need you anyway, right?
Did I do something? Did this? I'm like, okay.
Yeah, and you can't internalize it. It's like, okay, you're not for me. Especially when you're already building a community of people that you do. It's like, okay, I don't need you anyway.
Yeah, you feel safer to say, oh, that's okay.
Yeah, and I just won't even engage anymore. I just won't. It's not worth my time or energy. So I
Yeah.
know you said one thing, but so I guess my one thing is listen to your body, go play.
Yeah.
And if you've never tried therapy, go to therapy. Like, you don't have to be symptomatic. You don't have to be on medication. You don't have to be suicidal.
Yeah.
It is healthy to go to therapy when you're feeling good,
Mhm.
because then that's when your brain is in a point where you can actually talk through things, right? And be rational and focus on what's important to you. And you can just talk about, I don't know if this job is meant for me. It's making me really tired. It takes me away from my family. Those are things that are okay to talk about in therapy. So I feel like I need to clarify for people. You can go to counseling, you can go to therapy without being at rock bottom.
All of those, it goes back to those expectations. It's like and somewhere along the way, these different things that every people expect, or think that that's what therapy is, and it's like the purpose of therapy is to not have, expectations. Like you can have goals, but that's different than expectation. I could go
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, it's like your preventative wellness visits with your doctor.
Yeah.
Excuse me. It's like, you go when you're feeling well to make sure you stay healthy.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So those are all my last little tidbits.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much for
Uh,
bringing this with us.
yes. See, I'm listening to my body right now, even though
I
it
know
might
we
not look
both
professional. I need to stretch. My arms need to crack. I will do this during telehealth sessions too, or even in-person sessions with people. Like, I will just, because I like to model, like, it's okay. For the people that are listening, you can't see me, but I'm moving. I'm trying to stretch myself out. I've been sitting here for 40 minutes. But closing, it was beautiful to be on this other side, and I loved it. And I'm always happy to talk about my journey. I hope this helps someone. Next week, we have Latoya Logan. She is going to talk about, obviously, a very relevant topic with racial injustice for hundreds of years, obviously not just recently, but she is going to be talking about young Black males and everything we need to know to support them, what barriers are to their wellness. So make sure you tune into that and like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes. And we'll talk and see you next week.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.